Right now, on to the point. The government shutdown closing in on a month. What it means for the housing market and anyone trying to get flood insurance right now.
The current shutdown doesn't help the situation.
Tracking the polls on Proposition 50 with less than a week to go until the special election.
The polling on this has been so flat that if this was an EKG, the patient would be dead.
They say every vote counts, but who decides where those votes count? Tonight, the surprising history behind gerrymandering. And food banks feeling the crunch as people are set to lose cow fresh benefits this weekend. How you can help. Well, California's special election on Proposition 50 is less than a week away. That's the ballot measure to temporarily redraw the state's congressional lines ahead of the 2026 midterms. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny He brings us the latest tonight.
With Prop 50, the Election Rigging Response Act, we can stop Trump cold.
Politicians want to take the power away from the people here in California.
The fate of this single yes or no question ballot measure is in the hands of voters.
It does look as though all things are pointing towards this winning.
Political data expert Paul Mitchell tracks ballot returns. He says as of Tuesday, 21% of ballots have been returned and counted, 52% of them from Democrats, 27% from Republicans.
And that widening of the gulf has been surprising.
He says the contrast in party turnout could be due to messaging.
The yes side in a Democratic-leaning state had a crystal clear message of this is pushing back on what Trump is doing in Texas.
Mitchell says turnout so far matches what a new poll from the Public Policy Institute of California shows. There is high voter interest. Nearly 70% of voters, regardless of party, say the outcome of the election is, quote, very important.
And remember that Coldplay concert and the couple that got caught on the kiss cam? This was more well known by voters than the kiss cam incident.
And 56% of likely voters say they'd vote yes on Prop 50. Of that 56%, 95% disapprove of President Trump's performance, 86% approve of Governor Gavin Newsom's performance. Data perhaps not surprising, given Prop 50 was drawn by Democrats.
And that red-blue divide has defined almost everything in this election.
The yes side exuding confidence, launching its final ad featuring national Democrats openly critical of the president. The campaign did not respond to requests for comment.
To stop election rigging.
Yeah, no, it was the big mic drop ad, you know?
Meantime, the no camp has been outraced, slowing down on ads too.
There are millions of votes still to be counted, and we continue to focus on those persuadable voters.
Jenny He, ABC 10.
Gerrymandering is wrong wherever it occurs.
Well, that was Republican Representative Kevin Kiley appearing on CNN today. He shared his thoughts on gerrymandering and if there is a solution to it.
You know, there's a long and ignominious history of gerrymandering in the United States, but this seems to be reaching levels that we've never seen before. And I just think it's terrible for the country. It's terrible for representation. I've also encouraged the creation of a bipartisan commission in Congress to come up with a solution where we just get rid of gerrymandering across the board in the United States by the time of the next census when we're actually supposed to redistrict.
Now, gerrymandering is a term we are hearing a lot right now, interchanged with the term redistricting, as California and other states across the country are considering redrawing their congressional maps. Reporter Monica Madden looks into the history of gerrymandering and how we got here.
America was founded on the notion that a government for the people would be made up of the people. But who decides how the people are represented? That's more complicated. In 26 states, this power lies in the hands of elected politicians in the state legislatures, but not California.
It's all a puzzle piece.
Cynthia Dye knows California's districts. She helped draw them.
When the Voters First Act, came up to vote of people in 2008, I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to fix this in California. This is so exciting.
Dye was on California's inaugural Independent Redistricting Commission, formed after voters approved Prop 11 and Prop 20 to have citizens, not politicians, draw the electoral maps.
We could not be candidates, politicians, staffers, lobbyists, major donors, or be related to any of those people in order to serve on the commission.
The effort largely driven by then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Gerrymandering is the worst thing that ever happened to politics.
A political outsider who quickly grew frustrated by how manipulated maps impacted the government's business, and he was determined to put an end to it. But what exactly is gerrymandering? The answer is as juicy as a good political debate.
Gerrymandering refers to any effort to draw districts strategically to favor one group, one interest, party, or even a given individual.
To learn more about it, we caught up with Eric Schickler, a certified congressional history buff and co-director of UC Berkeley's Institute of Governmental Studies.
The term actually goes back to early in the U.S. Republic in the early 1800s.
Enter Elbert Gerry, the architect and namesake of gerrymandering. A founding father himself, Gerry got the nickname after redrawing the Massachusetts state Senate districts to maximize his party's power.
The expectation was they would be drawn by politicians to serve their interests.
That seems pretty counterintuitive to the way the Republic was set up.
Yes and no. I mean, the idea was that this would be a representative democracy, not a direct democracy. One person, one vote, that we should all have votes that are roughly as important as one another is a kind of core democratic value.
It's a core value that Schickler says hasn't always been reflected well.
People in power want to retain their power.
I mean, there are a few tools that are more potent in a sense than being able to draw your districts, because you're basically able to choose the voters who are going to be deciding on your fate.
Good little history lesson there. And when it comes to drawing maps to benefit a party in power, federal courts have largely stayed out of the issue. And in 2019, the U.S. Supreme Court made partisan gerrymandering easier. That ruling in part enabled Texas to redraw its maps this summer. And streaming right now on the free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app, the To The Point team is highlighting the redistricting issue and also its impacts to help voters make an informed decision. All you have to do is just look for Redistricting Battle, California's Prop 50. On the home screen, you'll see everything right there. All right, the Federal Reserve today lowered interest rates by a quarter point for the second time this year. Economists say the decrease is needed to bolster a struggling job market. It is the first time since the 1930s that they are setting policy without access to a full month of government employment data. Now, the ongoing federal government shutdown has suspended most of the economic data the Fed relies on. That includes the Labor Department's jobs report for September, which should have been released on October 3rd.
It's not to say that we don't know what's happening with the U.S. economy right now, but we would have a much better idea and a higher degree of confidence if the federal government were operating and releasing the data that we're accustomed to getting.
The Fed can lean on employment data from the private sector as well as its regional banks. And while government inflation data for September was released last Friday, bank rates Mark Hamrick says that the labor market is really in the Fed's focus. All right, next on To The Point, Hurricane Melissa's deadly path, rescue crews racing to find survivors as the U.S. military moves in to assess all of the damage. And the government shutdown is nearing the 1 month mark and now impacting the housing market and those looking for flood insurance.
It was a pretty warm day today, made it to 80 in Sacramento, but tomorrow we're back in those mid to upper 70s, and that's where we're going to stay pretty much through the weekend. I've got a forecast breakdown after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight.
This verdict was long overdue. It is not the verdict that we wanted, but he will pay.
An Illinois jury convicted a former sheriff's deputy of second-degree murder in the shooting death of Sonia Massey, a black woman who called 911 to report a suspected prowler. Sean Grayson could be sentenced up to 20 years in prison or even probation. The United States will share closely held technology to allow South Korea to build a nuclear-powered submarine. President Trump made the announcement on social media today. South Korea's president said if his country was equipped with nuclear-powered submarines, it could help U.S. activities in the region. And 2 suspects in the Louvre jewel heist admitted their involvement in the October 19th theft. They were charged with theft committed by an organized gang and criminal conspiracy. They are believed to be the men who forced their way into the museum and took jewels valued at more than $100 million. Welcome back in. Search and rescue efforts are underway in Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa came on shore as a Category 5 hurricane just yesterday. We know that parts of Cuba and the Bahamas also getting hit by the storm, which has now been downgraded to a Category 2 hurricane. Right now, there are reports of at least 48 deaths due to this storm. The U.S. military says it is sending a team to assess all of the damage from Melissa, saying that decisions on U.S. support will be based on those assessments. And then take a look at this video. Jason from Rudy's Island Grill right here in Sacramento shared this video from his uncle who is in Jamaica. You can see all the total destruction from the hurricane. The family is now looking for donations to help with cleanup. We do have those details on our website. I want to go ahead and bring in our meteorologist, Brendan Minchef, who is also tracking this for us. Brendan, what can you tell us right now?
Yeah, well, this storm now is well north of Jamaica. Jamaica's not even on the map. It's south of Cuba. A storm's north of Cuba, and it does not look that well organized at this moment, but surprisingly, it's still holding enough of its shape to still be packing a little bit of a punch. It's a Category 1 storm at the moment with sustained winds of 90 miles per hour. But here's the thing, even though it's currently impacting the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos, it's not done yet. In fact, it's going to re-strengthen to a Cat 2 sometime within the next several hours. We'll have sustained winds of about 105 miles per hour, and it is going to track just to the northwest of Bermuda by the time we get towards Friday morning. There are actually hurricane warnings out for the island of Bermuda. So again, the storm not done yet, but certainly it is picking up some forward speed. It's now moving at 16 miles per hour compared to just 2 miles per hour that it was moving at when it impacted Jamaica. Okay, let's take it back home to Northern California. 80 degrees today, warmest day we've had in a little bit of some time here. 84 in Vacaville, 84 in Fairfield, 80 Stockton, 79 in Modesto, 77 in Placerville. Temperatures running about 5 to 7 degrees warmer than normal this afternoon, but it's one of just a handful of days this month that have actually been above normal. We've had 21 days this month with below normal temperatures. In fact, the monthly average high, observed high, is 74.7 degrees. Typically, we'd be closer to 79.5 degrees. So this has certainly been a much cooler than normal month of October. 73 right now in Sacramento, 74 Stockton, 74 Modesto, 68 in Placerville, low 50s up in the high country. Thursday morning, much like the last several days, is going to be a little bit of a chilly start. Upper 40s to low 50s across much of the valley. Some 30s up in the high country. Thursday afternoon, though, much more mild. We're back in those mid to upper 70s across the valley. Some isolated areas topping out in the 80s, perhaps 74 Placerville, 79 in Angels Camp and Sonora, mid to upper 60s in the high country. The weather pattern, we're just not seeing a lot of change. High pressure is overhead for now, but it is going to move a little bit. That's going to bring our temperatures back towards seasonal for Halloween. But high pressure is going to stay close enough that it's going to prevent any storms or significant changes in the weather pattern. So in the foothills, we're looking at mid to upper 70s. In the high country, we're looking at mid to upper 60s. But don't forget, of course, we do get that extra hour of sleep. That does mean sunrise on Sunday is going to start at 6:34, sunset at 5:04 p.m. on Sunday. So we are really going to get dark early once we get to this weekend. Over the next 10 days, a lot of 70s. Then next week, especially the middle of next week after Election Day, a little bit of a pattern change. We're back in the 60s, Alex.
Brendan, I am going to miss seeing the sun after I get out of work. All right, right after the break, we're going to be talking about the government shutdown impacting the housing market. FEMA's flood insurance program now on pause, and it could stall home sales. And then also food banks are bracing for an increase in demand and asking for help as CalFresh benefits are set to stop this weekend. Welcome back in. The government shutdown is reaching its 1-month mark, and the Congressional Budget Office is warning the economy could lose billions of dollars. A report finds the shutdown will lower GDP growth for the quarter by 1 to 2 percentage points. Most of the decline will be recovered. However, depending on how long the shutdown continues, the CBO found the economy could lose up to $14 billion. The CBO says the decline is the result of fewer services provided by federal workers, less spending on goods and services, and lower SNAP benefits. But the agency also says, quote, the effects of the shutdown on the economy are uncertain. Now, the shutdown is also impacting the housing market. I want to go ahead and bring in ABC 10's Becca Habegger, who's joining us live in studio. And Becca, this was actually a story that popped in our inbox this morning. People who need flood insurance are finding it harder and harder to get, right?
That's right. FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program is unavailable. An insurance expert tells me new policies and policy renewals are on pause during the shutdown. I spoke with him and a housing analyst about what this means for the local real estate market.
Flood insurance is not available right now through FEMA, and so that can certainly impede lending in various pockets of Sacramento where that are designated as flood zones.
Ryan Lundquist is an appraiser and housing analyst who runs the Sacramento Appraisal blog. He says typically mortgage lenders require homeowners to get flood insurance if they live in a flood zone. And one popular method is FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program.
Over 5 million properties are covered under this program.
Carl Sussman is founder of the nonprofit Insurance Consumer Guidance Society, dedicated to providing the residents of California with clear, unbiased educational resources about insurance. He says people in need of new or renewed flood insurance during the federal government shutdown can check the private market.
There are private insurance companies that write flood insurance. It's not just you can only get it through the feds. And it's not necessarily more expensive. Sometimes it can be a fraction of the cost.
While flood insurance is a concern, there are other housing market issues caused by the shutdown that don't have a clear, immediate solution.
The big issue is there are some federal employees who are struggling to close on loans, whether that's a refinance or purchase, because they can't show, proof of continued income. And so, unfortunately, those people are sort of on pause until the federal shutdown gets resolved.
He says the shutdown is the latest factor fueling economic uncertainty. During the hot housing market of 2021, nearly 57% of homes in the region sold above the original list price. Now, that number is just 25%, with 63% selling below list price. And active listings are spending an average of about 80 days on the market.
I think this year in the housing market, we've seen more uncertainty about the economy. And so the current shutdown doesn't help, the psyche of buyers and sellers.
He points out mildly positive data, with 235 more homes sold in the region last month compared to September of 2024. He attributes that to slightly lower mortgage rates over the past few months.
I'm not ready to call that a trend. I think we can at least identify that, hey, when mortgage rates do go down, it does make a little bit of a difference for buyers.
I asked if the Fed lowering interest rates will impact the housing market.
When the Fed cuts rates, that's really the short-term rate. So for like credit cards and, auto loans. And so there's relief for consumers in that regard, but it doesn't necessarily mean that mortgage rates would definitively go down. In fact, today, mortgage rates actually went up a little bit.
The Insurance Consumer Guidance Society says people with existing FEMA flood insurance who have to file a claim during the shutdown should be able to still get that processed. I reached out to FEMA for the story, but did not hear back. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you so much. Thousands of families could be impacted as CalFresh benefits are set to be put on hold starting on Saturday. The Sacramento Food Bank is bracing for a potential increase in demand. Volunteers are hard at work feeding those in need across the county. During the month of September, the food bank says they fed 332,000 people, the highest ever in their nearly 50-year history. They say the ongoing government shutdown and pause in funding to SNAP is leading to more people needing help.
We've received a lot of phone calls from people looking for assistance, people who don't really know where to start because this is their first time ever having to come to a food bank.
The food bank is now asking the community for financial donations to help them buy additional supplies to meet that increased demand. The food bank says for every $1 donated, they are able to turn that into 3 meals for a neighbor in need. Coming up, signs that the holiday season is right around the corner. The official state Christmas tree arrives after a very long journey. Well, Halloween is this Friday, but it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas here in Sacramento. California's official Christmas tree arrived today at the state capitol. The tree came all the way from Shasta County from the Latour Demonstration State Forest. The 60-foot tall tree will be set up on the west lawn of Capitol Park on 10th Street between N and L Streets. A tree crew from the California Department of General Services will now spend several days trimming the tree with nearly 200 handcrafted ornaments donated by the California Department of Developmental Services. As always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. If you have something you think we should be looking into, you can email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget, you can download our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app so you can catch up on the news anytime, anywhere.